Hey, everybody, welcome to our next On the Spot. I am so excited to introduce CJ. CJ is going to be here with us. And, although she works at our church and she's been around a long time, I'm not actually going to be talking to her necessarily about what she does specifically in our worship department, but some of the other stuff that she does in her life. But let's get started with just some basic questions we've got to get out of the way. How long have you attended Willingdon Church? Not worked at it, but just attended.
Oh, attended. I actually started coming with my family in 2005. So it's been, I think, 16 years. Yeah, 16 years.
Wow. That's great. Time flies. You're having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Oh, so much fun.
And I remember you, obviously, in junior high as you came in. I would like to know, what is your favorite junior high youth group memory that you might have?
Oh, easy. I would say the Harrison missions trip. That was when I really started to get to know people, and I really found a group of friends that are still my friends to this day. And getting to serve. Actually, that was where I dedicated my life to Christ, because I grew up as a Christian in a Christian family, but that was where, teaching kids the gospel, having to just teach something means you really got to know it. And so that was really, that was very significant in my life and in my faith.
Oh, that's awesome. And Harrison, what a great trip. I miss it. I know that church doesn't exist anymore the same way.
Yeah,
we don't go anymore, but we went for over 20 years, taking tons of students, and such a great trip. And now we're looking hopefully to get some other trips that we can start doing like it, because it's wonderful opportunities. And I remember you there. So that was awesome. Now let me ask you this. This is a big question. Would you choose to watch a movie or read a book? Which would you choose? Like, would you rather read a book about that subject or watch a movie about it? Which one do you lean to?
I love both, but I gotta say, I'd rather read a book. I was a bookworm growing up. Don't have a lot of time these days to read for fun, but definitely I'd choose the book over the movie.
Yeah. No, there you go. So I'm a movie guy. I'm kind of lazy that way. I'm like, if I can get it in an hour and a half, because reading might take me 20 hours to finish the book. So give it to me. But I do know that books, you get a lot more detail and a lot more content. So good for you for being a bookworm. I actually started reading later in life. Now I read more than I ever did when I was younger. So I like reading too. Okay, here's one. We always like to hear these things. Do you have a good story about a dating fail? Something that just went wrong on a date. You don't have to give names necessarily, or do you have a good story like that? Do you have something that's happened in your life?
To be honest, I have a few, but I think for today, I'll share. At one point, I was doing long distance kind of with my boyfriend, and he had come into town to visit me, and I lived in an apartment. So he buzzed in, or at least I thought it was him. And so I answered the phone and I'm like, hello, are you here? And it was silent. And I was like, I looked at the time. I'm like, oh, that should be him. Hello. And at the front door, you just probably hear my voice in the neighborhood, like, hello. And then, nothing. So I hung up, and about 20 minutes later, another buzz. I'm like, hello. He's like, hi, I'm here. I'm like, okay. Come down. He's got this big, bouquet of flowers. And I was like, oh, this is so sweet. He's like, yeah, I buzzed the first time and I realized I had nothing with me to give you. So I ran to Superstore and I grabbed you some flowers and I'm here now. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And he was thoughtful, but I was like, why didn't you just say something?
But let me ask, did it work? Like, did you continue the relationship? Did it move to another date?
It moved to another date for sure. It was a very sweet gesture. So
we're trying to say, guys, even if you show up empty-handed and leave them hanging on the intercom, it's still worth going and getting those flowers and coming back. Okay, that's good.
We just
got to take notes. That's awesome. I like the fact you have a few stories. So we'll wait maybe other interviews. Then we have other things to talk about.
For sure.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today is I've just heard that you're on this, the interweeb, on the World Wide Weeb, and you're doing things on this place. No, you're on the internet a lot and using different platforms on social media. What kind of platforms do you use on social media?
So interestingly enough, I actually reduced my social media usage significantly.
Okay.
And this is not to be a shameless plug, but I actually share my testimony with that. Like I made a YouTube video about it. So if people want to hear more detail about how that happened, like I would encourage them to watch that. But currently I am only using Instagram and YouTube. I don't have Facebook. I don't have TikTok. I've never made a TikTok in my life. I would probably stink at making those dances, but just the two.
Yeah. You've limited your use to just being on Instagram and being on YouTube. Like you were talking about TikTok. Yeah, I would like bust an ankle or something trying to do TikTok. I can't dance at all. So I get that. But you're saying it's part of your testimony. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to really enjoy being on different social media platforms, not for the sake of wanting to get attention or anything like that, but I just thought it was a fun way to connect with people. Like, you know, if you're on Snapchat, you just send this quick moment to your friends because you just want them to know about it. But there came a point where I felt very overwhelmed with what people thought of me and feeling the pressure to look a certain way or post certain things, even the frequency of how often you post. Like, I know there are actual social media influencers who do that as a job and they have to do things a lot. And so I think that sets this weird standard to everyone else who lives non-social media influencer job lives to try and make themselves look a certain way, and they don't actually have to. So I just got caught up in that, and I decided to step back because it was drowning out a lot of God's voice, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, that's like the testimony in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. So that runs into like, what's your purpose in being on social media then? Was it just for yourself? Is it about your image or your popularity, or what's the purpose of being on social media for you?
Yeah, for me, it's just about being in a community. You can't deny that social media and the internet is a whole world. And for a lot of people who were born into the age where they never knew life without data or a smartphone, you know, like this is just part of life. So for me, being on social media, I know that I'm engaging with people who are real people, and I just want to be myself. And I don't want to feel the pressure, like what I described earlier, to look or be a certain way. But if I genuinely want to share something with people, I'll do it. And I don't want to put too much weight on that in a negative way, but just leave it for what it is. Like, I want to share that I went somewhere cool and it was fun. And that's it. So, but I also want to be on social media because I know that for a lot of people, they are influenced by what you do. And I would argue that everybody on social media is an influencer. You know, as you're scrolling through different things, you are being influenced by what you see. And so I decided after going through that season of being like, this is too much, that God was actually leading me to go back, but with the purpose of living a life and just being me and showing people what it looks like to walk with Jesus and how that looks for someone in their 20s. And I think we need more of that. So that's why I'm there.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It almost redefines the whole idea of what an influencer is, especially for Christians. And I think that's really neat. Now, you'd mentioned about sharing a testimony on YouTube and stuff. How do you share your faith in other ways on social media as an influencer in the way that you see it influencing people towards Christ or influencing people with what it looks like to be a young lady who's a Christian and how you're living your life? How do you do that?
Well, I know you said other than YouTube, but I will say the YouTube thing was a huge, step out of my comfort zone. I love filming and editing and producing videos. It's just something that I take great joy in, and choosing to be very vulnerable on that platform was a big way of showing people how I am a Christian and how I love Jesus, and I know that especially during COVID, people are watching videos. So I'm like, well, why not? You know? But other ways that I do that would be on Instagram. And so maybe if I'm, doing my Devos in the morning and something really sticks with me, I'm like, maybe someone needs to hear that today. And so I'll just put it on my story. Or if I post something on my main feed, I usually put more significant things. I don't know. There's kind of a difference between stories, which are like there for 24 hours, and then the posts, which live there for forever. And so I just choose if I want something to be a bit more lasting, like maybe I'll put it in my feed. But if it's a quick thought that might encourage somebody, then I'll do that. And if it points people to Jesus, then all the more reason to put it out there.
So how do you balance yourself between the real world and the digital world? Because they can be, each one can take over the other. How do you balance yourself?
Yeah. I think what helps, and I know this doesn't apply to everyone, is that I didn't grow up with a smartphone. I think I only got a phone like later in high school. And so it is easier for me to step away and remember that there is a life outside of my phone. Wow. But it is easy to get sucked in. You pick up your phone out of habit, you're there for 20 minutes. You're like, what happened? Like, whoa, time just flew by.
Totally. So what rabbit holes and all sorts of things, right?
Exactly. Yeah. One thing I've had to do to discipline myself is to actually turn off notifications, because that way your device isn't just pinging at you and you're not like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? And you're able to focus on the things that are happening around you, like the conversation you're having with your friend, your homework that you should be doing. Social media, it's going to be there by the time you're finished your assignment. It's okay to put it down for a while. So that has helped a lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all this stuff with us. And I have one more question. What advice would you give to a junior high student who wants to be an influencer for their faith and on social media, and they want to start doing that? What's some advice you have for them?
I would just encourage you to fall in love with Jesus, because what is inside your heart comes out of you. And so the things that you post on social media are things that you're excited about and things that you want to share. So if you love the Lord and He is the thing that you're excited about, that will naturally come out, not only on social media, but in the way that you speak to people and the things that you do. So if you want to be an influencer, I would say just invest in your relationship with Jesus and trust that, the things that come out of you, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So yeah, that would be where it all starts. And that's my piece of advice.
That's great. We should adapt that verse out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, or the thumbs type. Right.
Yeah.
There you
go. Keep it relevant.
But I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm really, I thank you very much for sharing this part of your life with us and also on social media, because I think it's really important as Christians that we do live our lives authentically where we are. And part of that is how we post and what we do. So, yeah. No, I just want to thank you for coming out and joining us for this week's our segment On the Spot. Thank you so much, CJ, and we'll talk to you later, all right?
Thanks, Mark.
All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Oh, that was Nat.
That was Nat. All right.